Now we've got the papers that we're going to work with, and we've got our layouts that we've designed ready to go. We need to start cutting papers. The first thing we're going to do is actually looking at our layouts, work out what papers are going where. And because I've had a bit of time to think about this, as I said before, I really like these two papers together, and this one goes really nicely with it. And so what I'm going to do is just cut the manufacturer's strip off of this one. I may even cut out the center of this page so that I might be able to use this paper in another page. I will then cut this light green one down to 27 centimeters square, so I'll end up with a square 27 centimeters. And then for this one, because I particularly want this sort of greener part of the paper, I'll cut a 10 centimeter strip across the whole lot, and then we'll assemble that together. So that's what I'm going to do with that first set. I will have the rest of the basic grey here to work with, and for the second page I'm going to cut a 14 centimetre square from that one. I'm going to cut a 14 centimetre square from this one, and if you're using separate papers you'll use this one and the grey dot, but because the grey dot is on the back of our nice bright coloured triangles, I'm going to cut two 14 centimetre squares from the one piece of paper. And also a 14 centimetre square from the grey stripe. And that will give us our first two pages. And what I'll do is I'll cut those and get those ready, and then come back and we'll look at the papers that we've got remaining, and I'll show you where we're going to go with those. So I've got the first two pages starting to come together now. With using the green here, I've cut it to a 27 centimetre square. I've got a 10 centimetre by 30 centimetre strip for the basil, and this is how I'm going to actually put them together on the page. But the first thing that I would do is to just ink the edges with some brown pine cone Versamark, just one of these little ones. This tends to be the one that I use a lot, thanks to my daughter who put me on to pine cone, and it works well in lots and lots with lots of different colours, so it's really helpful colour to have around and have handy. So that's my first page. At this stage I haven't cut the centre out of the back sheet, but I probably will. But just to sort of keep things moving, I wanted to keep going. And the second page has the four 14 centimetre squares that I'm going to just set up on a page like this. Quite often in layouts you see that they'll round the outside corners. I don't think I'm going to do that here. I think I'll just leave them square and use it that way. And so again, I would ink the edges before I glue those down. So they're the two sheets that are easy to sort of cut out the papers for and things like that. We've got two pieces of cardstock left. I've still got a whole sheet of the triangle with the blue spot, plus another half sheet of the grey with a bit left over, and just a couple of strips from the green and a bit of the basic grey. So this is what we've got left. The next stage will be, if you go back to the layouts that I've done, so we've done the first one, we've got the third one happening. The next one that I want to think about is just the second one, where we've just got a lot of layering happening at the top of the page with the photos there. And so the last one I've just left blank because I want to find out how much paper we've got to work with and work out what I'm going to do there. So for For the next page, I'm going to use the white, and I'm going to use a little bit of ink and things on it. I'm going to start with the blue spot and cut a piece 16 by 25, 16 centimeters by 25, and then I will also cut possibly, I think what I'll do is cut some of the triangle, and we'll use that with it, and also some of this grey as well. So and I'll just cut those stepping down from 16 by 25. I'll probably do 15 by 23.5 or something like that, and then 14 by 22, and we'll just use those, layer those up to get the page happening there, and then we will work with all the leftovers to put together the final page for the last layout. So again, we'll stop, and so from the blue I'm going 16 by 25, 15 by 23.5, 14 by 22 to get the pages, the papers that we need to go on this page. Okay, so here's the pieces of paper that we've cut for the third layout, and I've got 16 by 25, 15 by 23.5, and 14 by 22. And when I glue these down, I don't know if I'll ink these ones. I actually might leave these ones because they're fairly solid colours. I might leave these plain, and I'll just glue those down, but I'll glue the two top ones down just with very slight angles so that we get a bit of movement and things happening. I'm not necessarily looking to have things right in the middle. If you've got a formal layout, you would line things up fairly equally so that everything lines up nice and straight. If you want something a bit more casual or something less formal, then you're going to you can try using some small angles to just give things a bit of movement, and you would put your pictures on with slight angles as well. So that's page 3, and then that leaves us all of these papers here to work with. So we've got lots of colour still and lots of bits and pieces which we can work with, but I've had a look, and I think what I'll do is using the big piece that's left over from the basic grey, I'll use that. I'll cut down the manufacturer's strip off of the green and use that for my strip, and then somehow use this leftover piece from the grey stripe as well. So I haven't cut any of those different to the way they've turned out being left over from the previous pages, but what I want to do also is bring in, and I'm not quite sure yet, but probably the blue spot, and I want to cut this piece down to 16 by 21 centimeters, and I'm going to use that to map some photos on. So 16 by 21 for this piece, and just trim off the strip of the green, leave these two big pieces exactly as they are. We'll use them as they are. Again, I would ink the edges on this one, and then we're ready, I think, to just assemble things together. We've still got a bit left over that we can play with when we're doing embellishments and stuff. We might decide to layer in some more colours once we sort of get going, so we might tuck in some of these leftover bits as we work through. So keep all those pieces handy. We're still going to use, or we still possibly will use those, so we need those still. Just cut down this big piece to 16 by 25, remove the strip, and then we're ready to go. Okay, so now we've got the pages assembled. I've got the first one with the 3 layers of paper, and I didn't ink those pages. This was the last one that we did, just cutting the bits of paper from the leftovers, and I've got this assembled now, what I did was put the basic grey one down first, put the long strip over the top, then just matted with the, put the grey stripe down, and then the blue and white, blue and grey spot, which is going to form the mat for my photo. So I'm intending to put 2 portrait photos on here, side by side. That's what we're going to do with that one. This one I did talk about cutting the centre out of the back piece. So this is the centre that I've cut out. I've got a rotary cutter, and you can't actually do that with a rotary cutter, the one that I've got, because you've got to cut from the edge. And so what I ended up doing was getting an old cutter out and using that where I can start anywhere that I want. You can also use a craft knife or just a pair of scissors to cut it out. We just might use some of this when it comes to doing the embellishing and finishing off. So that's why I decided to keep that bit of paper. And of course on the last page I inked all the edges, and just to show you what I do when I'm inking, I just get the ink pad and I just run it along the edges, and I really don't fuss or worry how much or how little. I just run it along the edges, and hopefully you can see that it does give the edge some definition and some depth, so that when you sort of put it down on the page it sort of fits in really well. And then I use double-sided sticky tape to put my pages together. Some people use a roll-on. I've seen people use hot glue, which I'm not quite sure what that would do to photos and things like that. I've even seen other people use staples, and again I sort of worry a bit about how that would affect the photos in long term sitting on top of staples. So with the double-sided tape you put it down, and then you just peel off the backing piece and it leaves the sticky tape on the page, and then all you've got to do is put it down. I'll put it down crooked just to show you, like even if you put it down crooked you can sort of lift it up and move things around, as long as you're careful with what you're doing and reposition things. So it really isn't too much of a bother to work with double-sided tape. I sort of found in the beginning it took a bit to get used to it, but I love it and I wouldn't use anything else now. Okay, let's talk about photos, because there's been a decided lack of photos in what we've done so far. On this page what I want to put down is 3 portrait photos side by side going across sort of this part of the page. So when I go to my photos, I'm going to look for 3 photos that belong together, that are portrait in shape. This one here, I can either use portrait or landscape photos. I can put landscape photos across here, or I can do portrait photos again. So I can either do, I'm intending to put 2 photos on this page, and that's how I will handle that one. And as I mentioned before, I'm going to use 2 portrait photos on here, and this is going to be the photo mat for that. And this one here, what I intend to do is use 2 4x4 photos. I did a practice run on another page, and I ended up using a landscape and a portrait photo, and I left the portrait photo whole, but then I positioned the landscape photo over it, and I cut it down a little bit, but I didn't cut it down to 4x4. So it really depends on the photos that you're working with what you do, but the intention at this stage is to have 2 photos that we can cut down to 4 inches by 4 inches or 10 by 10 centimetres, and we'll work with it from there. So we're going to leave it here now, and the next stage will be to go and find the photos and come back, and I'll show you putting the photos on, and we'll probably work through the embellishment and the finishing off of one of the pages next time. So thanks for listening. I hope you're enjoying the videos, and I'll see you in the next video.